Hey, everybody, and welcome to B&B's Football Happy Hour. As always, we are back. We are bearded. You know we're beautiful. I am Bobby with my man, Brian.
What's going on? Glad to be back for another week of some football chat.
That's right. And once again, we are joined by another handsome fella. He is the senior producer at Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, a writer for Elite Fantasy, FantasyGuru.com, and PressBox Online. He's also, most importantly, the pride and joy of Cecil County, Maryland, Phil Backert. What's up, Phil?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, absolutely. We are more than happy to have you. Nice fantasy professional with us this week. Now, before we get rolling, you know, Brian and I got this little podcast thing we got going here. We've been playing fantasy sports forever. Give us a little history lesson on how did you get into fantasy and how did you or what made you want to turn it into a career?
So, I mean, obviously I did fantasy just with friends like everyone does, but I was in radio before fantasy. So I did Baltimore Sports Talk for a lot of years. And then obviously trying to break my way into Sirius XM because that's the big leagues. And fantasy hired me, and it was more – I mean, obviously I've known, fantasy, but I wasn't full-blown into the fantasy sports industry. But once I got hired, I dove in head first and – working with the different hosts. The one good thing about fantasy sports radio is it's literally a bunch of different companies that you work with. So working with different hosts, a couple of them asked, hey, do you want to, do some small writing stuff with us? And because of that, my knowledge just kept gaining. And finally, I'm like, dude, I'm producing fantasy sports radio. I did a lot of writing before heading into, in college and things like that. So it just kept growing from there. And now at this point, if I leave radio, I'll probably stay in the fantasy sports industry, to be honest with you. That's how much I'm into it. But it started with radio, and then obviously just being hired by Fantasy Sports. When you're doing it every day, you have no choice but to try to become involved with it. So I took that road, and I'm loving it.
That's great, man. I got to take some notes from you because, dude, I'm doing enough research and spend enough time on this nonsense. I need to start getting paid for it.
Yeah, dude. Keep grinding, man. I'll tell anyone that. Just keep grinding, dude. I worked a lot of years for free. In radio, I worked for free.
Everybody says, yep.
In fantasy, I worked for free. I mean, granted, I'm not like making a ton of money, but enough now that I'm like, all right, this is nice. And the side gig pays the bills at times. So it's cool. But, yeah, you just got to keep grinding.
You got it, my man. So now you never want to wish ill on anyone. However, finally, the Houston Texans fired Bill O'Brien. I know not just our show, but everyone out there has been calling for him, if nothing else, since the day he dealt DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, that could easily go down as one of, if not the worst trades in the history of football. You bring in an over-the-hill running back in David Johnson, who's obviously past his prime, and he's got a terrible contract. And what do you know? The Texans are in last place as far as rushing yards go. And poor Deshaun Watson, he's running around, losing his mind. He's throwing off his back foot because he doesn't have a choice. So Romeo Crennel steps in. And if you look at him, he's been a head coach for 6 seasons in the NFL. 5 of those 6 seasons, he has had a 30th or worst place scoring offense. Only 1 season where any of his offenses not in the bottom 3 of the league. What should we expect from this Texans offense? I mean, I'm a Brandon Cooks owner. I was like, this is the week. And then when he throws out a goose egg, I'm like, this is it. I'm out of here. What can we expect from these Houston Texans moving forward?
I think it's going to be inconsistent. I mean, obviously we've seen that so far this season. I think we need to hope Will Fuller stays healthy. I truly believe that he is a top-end wide receiver too when healthy. I mean, we saw it again this week. He should have scored that touchdown at the end of the game. They took it away. He just cannot stay on the field. It's frustrating because the targets are going to be there, especially with DeAndre Hopkins. I think he is going to be putting up similar stats that Hopkins has in the last few years if he could just stay on the field. Because I think Deshaun Watson doesn't trust anyone else, and he's going to continue to feed Will Fuller if he's on the field. So I think we're just – unfortunately, in my opinion, I think Deshaun Watson's probably the second most talented quarterback in the league. Maybe you make the argument that Russell Wilson's more talented, but I think it's Mahomes and Watson in my view. And he needs somebody next season. They got to get a better offensive coach, the support cast for him to take the next step because I'm a huge Deshaun Watson guy. But I think this season at this point, he's probably a low end QB1, and you hope that weeks that he had like this past week where he just gets to 300 yards and throws for 2 touchdowns, because that defense is atrocious against the run.
I'm telling you, man, that Will Fuller, I don't think I've ever seen a player like him where when he's out there, he balls out. But then you have, like, was it week 3, 2 weeks ago, when he's, like, stretching on the sideline the entire game. You never know what to expect with him.
Now, what do you think? Do you think Bill O'Brien got fired because they're 0-4 or because he traded DeAndre Hopkins?
I would say that it's probably because it's 0-4, but they're 0-4 because they traded DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what he was thinking doing that. And this team, I think eventually as an owner, you just have to look at what is our ceiling. And I think they reached their ceiling in the last couple of years. They made the playoffs. They just couldn't advance it any further. They blew that huge lead against the Chiefs. I mean, that was the chance for them to probably do something. And I think they realized they're not going anywhere. So let's make the change now. Let's figure it out, regroup, and hopefully they can make a good hire in the offseason.
Yeah, because I'm not a huge O'Brien guy. Nobody really is. We talk about him a lot on the show, but I looked into it. I mean, he was 52-48 with 4 division titles in 7 years. So it's like, it's not really a fireable offense, really. I mean, but I guess, like you said, 0-4. And then I think if he would have got a little more in return for Hopkins, he might have been able to stick the year out. But
yeah, I guess unfortunately, the expectations were division titles. And when you keep winning division titles, you need to advance in the playoffs. And they just haven't been able to do that. And obviously 0-4, they probably weren't going to go to make the playoffs. So it may have been a little too soon, especially when you see guys like Adam Gase still with a job. But just wanted to figure out a way to start anew.
So you're still pretty high on Deshaun Watson. I wanted to talk about some of these rookies now. Joe Burrow, I think he had his 3rd straight game at 300 yards. Justin Herbert, a guy that I wasn't really in love with in the beginning of the year, but I'm kind of falling in love with him. I mean, I think he's got a little skill, man. I think he looks like he's pretty good. So what are your thoughts on some of these young QBs? And fantasy-wise, are you ready to maybe start one of those guys over Deshaun Watson, or you're going to keep in Deshaun every week?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to make the leap over Deshaun at this point. The thing about Burrow, Bengals just let him loose, man. He's thrown at least 36 times in every game. Now, because of that, he gets sacked a lot. I know they were actually pretty decent this past week against the Jags. He only got sacked once, but against the Eagles a couple weeks ago, 8 times. But they're letting him chuck it. And at the end of the day, fantasy points, we don't care if they lose by 20 or what. As long as you're getting the yardage for us, we love it. And Burrow's getting the yards for us. So I think he's more of a QB2 for me in a 2 QB league. Obviously, he's a weekly starter. And I think this week, double digits against the Ravens, he's probably good. I mean, he's going to throw 40 times. So we just hope he throws a couple touchdowns for us. And about Herbert, I agree with you, man. I wasn't that high on him in college. He has all the tools. He's probably more talented than Burrow, to be honest. If you just, as a quarterback, you just watch both of them throw the football. But on the field, that hasn't translated. He's actually completing more pass completion percentages better now than it was in college, which is crazy. You would think it would not translate like that. So, again, I'm impressed with Herbert, man. I think the Chargers decide to keep him even when Tyrod Taylor comes back healthy. I think the keys are his for the offense now moving forward.
Yeah, depending on who your QB is, you could definitely take Herbert and Burrow for some spot starts. You need them here and there. I mean,
especially this week, like when all of a sudden you're out of Roethlisberger or Cam Newton, you needed someone. I think Burrow is a good bye-week injury fill-in, and Herbert as well.
Yeah, speaking of injuries and speaking of Herbert and his Chargers, I really think the NFL hates us as far as fantasy goes, because every week we get terrible backfield situations. I mean, you get Barkley going down with the Giants backfield. You got the mess going on in Detroit where you don't know who to start and who to play. Who knows what's going on in Tampa Bay? Every week's different. And now we have the Chargers backfield. Austin Eckler goes down. We're hearing 4 to 6 weeks. I'm hearing 6 to 8. Some people I heard just today are kind of worried that this might be a season ender for him. They don't, if they want to take care of him, not rush him back. So with that saying, Josh Kelly, the rookie they already have there, and he's gotten 52 carries in his first 4 weeks of professional football, which is pretty impressive, especially considering he's a second-string guy. And he's doing pretty well with it. Justin Jackson, he's been in San Diego. He's been a Charger for a few years now. And He played week 1, was hurt weeks 2 and 3, came back this week, and I think he had something like 8 total touches, but he played 40% of snap share, which is pretty good coming back from an injury. How do you see this backfield situation moving forward with Kelly and Justin Jackson?
So I think it's going to be the start with Jackson, but the problem with Jackson, I mean, he's lost fumbles now in back-to-back games. And so you start putting the ball in the turf, you're going to lose your job. So I think Jackson has a chance to overtake that. We've seen the talent over the last couple of years, but I think Joshua Kelly's going to be the first stab at it. I think a waiver wire ad of Justin Jackson's a smart move this week. I think, again, unfortunately, it's a lot of running back by committee right now in the NFL. It's extremely frustrating because you want to target guys with volume, and you're just not seeing it as much this season. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there was no preseason, and they're trying to navigate their way through all of the COVID and everything else. So I would say it's going to be Kelly's job at first, but that doesn't mean Justin Jackson is not going to get the ball 10 times this week. So I think he's a must-add. And I think at the end of the day, it probably shakes out that Jackson's the lead back because I think he's probably more talented than Joshua Kelly.
I'm with you, man. Between 2018 and 2019, he's been seldom used. I think he has 79 carries between those 2 years, but he's averaging 5.5 yards a carry. Justin Jackson is every time, they're giving him the ball. So if you say he's a must-add, what's your fab bid on that? What percentage of your fab are you using for Justin Jackson this week?
I would probably use 30%, to be honest with you. I mean,
okay.
I think
it's going all in.
Yeah, man. I mean, now the issue is if you went all in a couple weeks ago on Mike Davis, which was probably the smart move, he's only going to have a couple more weeks before McCaffrey comes back. But I think you have to – obviously it depends what your team is like, but I'm sure a lot of people are hurting right now on running backs. So if I could get a guy that even if he's not the starter, he's still going to get a lot of touches – I got to go pretty heavily on that because, you obviously would need the help.
All right. Putting in my 30% bid right now.
So let's keep it. I'll keep it with the running backs, man. Last night I'm watching the Chiefs-Patriots game. What are your thoughts on Damian Harris? I know he's a guy that's probably out there in a lot of leagues. He had 100 yards. Looked pretty good. And then Jonathan Taylor, he's a guy that we love on here. I love him. I have him on like 3 of my teams. And I was just watching that game this weekend, man, and he was like, nowhere to be found in like the third quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter. I mean, he played a little bit in the beginning, and then they put him in at the end like he was like a closer. I mean, he had 17 carries, 68 yards, but to me, I mean, Jonathan Taylor should be out there on the field like Zeke, he should be a 3-down guy. I just don't know why they're not using him. So, what are your thoughts on Damian Harris, free agent wise, and can you trust him coming from the Patriots offense? And what are your thoughts on Taylor?
I mean, Damian looked really good on Monday night, and I hope that Bill Belichick saw that as well, which we know he will, but he plays these games. Even when they got inside like the 10, Rex Burkhead was on the field. It's like, why is Rex Burkhead on the field, not Damian Harris, as he's running over people on Monday night? So we know the Patriots play these games. So I think you can go pretty heavily in it. I probably would still lean Jackson just if I had to rank the two. Just because the Patriots, you just don't know which guy's going to get the ball. And at the end of the day, he's not going to be on the field to catch the passes, so you're hoping that he gets the touchdowns. And if last night was an indication, Rex Burkhead's on the field at times with that. So that's my analysis on that. But I agree with you with Jonathan Taylor. This guy needs to be on the field more. And the last 2 weeks he's played under 50% of the offensive snaps in games that the Colts have controlled, especially a couple weeks ago against the Jets. He hasn't got 20 carries the last 2 weeks. It's like, what are they doing? This guy let him go. When he did against the Vikings, he absolutely exploded. So they need to use him more, and hopefully they will as the season continues because he is obviously, other than Nyheim Hines, he should be the guy that gets the ball. He should be the guy that gets the ball 20 times a game. We're talking about these running back by committees. The Colts should be one of those situations where we don't have to worry about him. We just say Jonathan Taylor's getting 20 carries. So hopefully they figure that out. But if he starts doing that, then obviously he's a lock and load RB1 week in and week out.
Now, there's a running joke on the show with me and my love for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, for months, I would bring him up any chance I got. But one negative I can say about him is I'm pretty sure I heard our boy Brad Evans say today that he's only averaging, I think, like 2 yards after contact or something like that. And he's one of the lowest rates in the NFL, which caught me by surprise. I anticipated Jonathan Taylor coming in with that 4.39 speed and, all that skill and running ability he has to be a little more productive than that. But I don't know. It hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you would hope that it would improve. I mean, even that game that he had over 100 yards, he was averaging less than 4 yards carry. So I guess that is some concern there. But I think at this point, it's not enough for me to say, all right, he shouldn't be getting the ball, close to 20 times a game. And I think they need him to, because that passing game right now is atrocious. Injuries and T.Y. Hilton's nowhere to be found. So I don't see why he's not getting four. At least he should be getting at least 3 to 4 catches. He's a great pass catcher, and they're just not utilizing him like that.
Preach, man. So again, Gus, it seems like we get guests on here, and you just perfectly segue into my next questions. The segment, I came up with a segment today. I'm going to call it Big Name, Little Game. And it's just about folks who, they got the name recognition out there, but their game is not backing it up. And the very first guy I want to bring up is, you just mentioned, T.Y. Hilton. He is currently the 73rd highest scoring receiver in fantasy in a PPR league. He's behind guys like Isaiah Ford, first-round bust Nelson Aguilar, and Darnell Mooney. T.Y. is sporting 13 catches for 162 scoreless yards. What do we do with him, Phil?
I think he's droppable at this point, to be honest.
Me too.
The targets aren't there. And it's kind of – he hasn't even had that big game yet that we're like, all right, there's the T.Y. that we can kind of hold on to him. Because at this point, when that big game happens, he's going to be on your bench. And then you're going to play him the following week trying to chase last week's stats, and he's going to go back to his 2 catches for 30 yards. So we can't have that dead weight on our bench and guess every week between these injuries and the bye weeks coming up. We got to I think he's droppable. I don't know where you guys stand on that, but it's just hard at this point until he actually has, I would say, 2 games in a row that are solid for me to even consider starting him at this point.
For me, I do my best to look
Take
at
the
guys.
names, divorce
That's what
the
I'm
name
saying.
from the numbers.
I know. Look at guys completely objectively and take that name off that jersey. And if you do, T.Y. Hilton has no business even being on your roster. He needs to be waiver wire fodder. Not even thought about. Mm-hmm. But it's T.Y. and it's that name, and it's tough to get by sometimes. It's rough.
And he's still the number one. I guess he's the number one.
Is he?
Yeah, I know.
All right, next guy, DJ Moore. Now, if you went running back heavy in your drafts this year, you probably drafted DJ Moore to be your wide receiver 1. And he hasn't produced, but he's got an excellent target share. He's got, I think, 32% of his team's target share, and he's only turned all those into 18 catches, and he's currently wide receiver 31. It doesn't help that his teammate, Robbie Anderson, has resurrected his career in Carolina, and he's a top 10 wide receiver right now. So are we still holding on to DJ Moore? We trying to – I don't even know what you could get if you try to trade him. We obviously can't drop him, but what's going on with him?
Yeah, I think he's at this point just a guy on your bench. Hopefully he can settle in as a wide receiver 3. But like you mentioned, Robbie Anderson, for whatever reason, Teddy Bridgewater enjoys throwing to him. He is what we were hoping DJ Moore would be this season and has been.
Yeah.
It just hasn't happened. So I believe in the talent, and I think it's enough that I'm going to keep him on the roster, and between bye weeks and things like that, you might have to play him as a flex or your wide receiver 3. I'm not ready to give up on him. I'm not. I just think the talent's there for you. And we just got to hope that we see what we saw in week 2 when he went off for 8 catches for 120 yards. This past week, I know a lot of people were on him with DFS. I was not, but he didn't come through for people, and I know they were high on him. So, unfortunately, this offense is running back, throw to the running back, and then if the one receiver is going to benefit. And right now, that's Robbie Anderson. And so that's not DJ Moore. So we just got to hope that eventually he gets more involved in this offense.
All right, Phil, last one I got for a big name, little game, and this is heartbreaking. It's my man, Kenyon Drake. He's the 35th highest scoring running back right now. He is 0.2 of a point ahead of his own backup, Chase Edmonds, as far as total points are scored. He's only got 5 catches on the season. Kenyon Drake, most of his career, he was a third down back. That's what his job was. It was to catch the football, and they're not even throwing it his way. And he's got 1 touchdown on the season. Man, what are we doing with Kenyon Drake?
Kind of feels like every year, the last couple of years, right? He started off slow and then he exploded late in the season and helped fantasy owners. So hopefully that happens again this year. I thought for sure he was going to have a big week against Carolina. Carolina cannot stop the run. And if there was any week for him to actually look like his old self, it would have been this past week, and it wasn't there. I think Arizona right now, they're kind of like in an offensive identity crisis. They want Kyler Murray to be the superstar, but he's turned the ball over. And I think they just got to get back to what worked late last season. That's Kenyon Drake when he had all those big games. And then I think they're trying to force DeAndre Hopkins to football. And it's hurting what they're overall trying to do. And they just need to get back to Kenyon Drake and then let Kyler Murray run around a little bit. And then you allow the offense to come to you instead of trying to force it. They're trying to score 50 points every game. And I don't think Kyler Murray's there yet. I'm a big Kyler Murray guy. I just don't think he's there in his maturation process at this point. So they have to get Kenyon Drake involved. But right now they're not. So it's hard to start him, to be honest with you. I mean, I think he's a flex play for you. But that's probably right now his ceiling until we see the Cardinals actually start giving him the ball more.
That's not a good ceiling, my friend.
No, it's not. And it sucks because he was drafted as you're definitely an RB2. It depends if you went wide receiver early or not. And he's not performing that way.
Yeah, man, I got Kyler on a few of my teams. I think the only thing saving me is those rushing yards every week for the last couple of weeks. But I think they'll come around. But, yeah, like you said, I think if they can feed Drake more, I think that might free up Kyler a little bit in the passing game. I mean, I know Hopkins, I guess, has a little bit of an injury. He didn't look too hot there on Sunday. Didn't do a whole lot. But give me your big picture now. Give me your biggest surprise through 4 weeks fantasy, and then your biggest disappointment this year so far, fantasy football-wise.
I mean, disappointment, obviously. Well, leading into last week, I would have said it was Joe Mixon, and he absolutely went off. So let's look at biggest surprise. I'm trying to think of who was near the top of these leaderboards. Let's look here.
I mean, actually, the biggest surprise for me is a guy we were just talking about, Robbie Anderson. He was a one-trick pony, deep threat. For his 4 seasons of his career. He comes down to Carolina, and Matt Rule decides to use him in a short passing game and use those yards after the catch that he can do. And it's working great. He's blowing up, like we said, a top 10 receiver right now.
Yeah, I would actually I know he was drafted as a QB1. I'm just impressed with Josh Allen. I didn't think he was going to be this kind of thrower at the next level. I thought he would rely too much on his legs, and he's still running the ball, obviously, but he's actually getting to 300 yards. I'm actually impressed how he has progressed as a quarterback overall and not just a guy that relies on running the football. I think at this point it's kind of enough that he's going to stick around. I think this is not a fluke. I think he still gives you the high floor because of his rushing ability, but the fact that Stephon Diggs, I thought his fantasy value was going to go in the tank going to Buffalo, and
Agreed.
He's playing as well as he was with Minnesota. So I'm actually impressed with Josh Allen.
Very impressed.
Yeah, he's a guy, he takes a lot of heat on our Facebook page too. Everybody, I posted something last week, and there was like 10 comments on there about, it's all a fluke and he'll go back to playing, like whatever, like he did last year, this and that. And yeah, like you said, I think he's kind of turned the page, and I think he'll keep it up for the rest of the year for sure.
Yeah, we'll see when the weather turns. I mean, we know how to Buffalo once it starts getting cold and everything else. So we'll see if that can continue. But I think at this point, I don't think it's a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just
disappointment is Zach Ertz, especially this past week when literally the Eagles have no weapons at all. I almost took the over on his catching prop. I think it was 5.5. I was like, oh man, in this game, I think he's going to get targeted heavily, and he doesn't break any tackles. I don't know what's going on with that Eagles offense. It's a mess. But
disgusting.
And my draft strategy was to draft tight end early, so I have a lot of Zach Ertz, unfortunately, and it's not working out well for me right now. But I have to classify him as a disappointment.
I really thought that was going to be a battle of the tight ends with Kittle and Ertz, but apparently only one tight end showed up for that fight.
It's unbelievable, and obviously he wants a new contract, but he's not playing like that. I don't think it's just him. I mean, Carson Wentz has his issues. Offensive line has had issues all season. I don't love the creativity from Doug Peterson either, but you figure at the end of the day, he's still going to be getting his share of catches like he has over the last few years, but it just hasn't been there.
Yeah.
All right, last one. I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, like you said, against the 49ers, I mean, unfortunately, we're both Eagles fans, so, I mean, I watch every game pretty closely. And, like, I have him on a few of my fantasy teams as well, and I thought he was going to have a huge week. I needed him to have a huge week, and he didn't. And they just kept talking about, how he was receiving all this attention, and every time they would show the replay, there'd be, like, an outside linebacker covering him, and he just couldn't – I mean – they were acting like he was getting like double teamed. He wasn't getting double teamed. I mean, it was just a joke. I don't know. I'm about to try to trade his in all my leagues.
Yeah, we need a big week. Then you could trade high because
need like a 2 touchdown week, and then I'm dishing him.
And then Miles Sanders, I don't understand why he wasn't on the field late in the game. I mean, they claim that that's their game plan, but that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah,
Austin Scott should never get the ball. He's not good. He's just not good at football. And I don't know what the deal is. I have no idea why he plays. Miles Sanders is a 3-down back. And now it doesn't help that he's wide open running wheel routes on linebackers and Carson Wentz overthrows him by 5 yards. Yeah. That doesn't help either. Sorry, listen, don't get me down this Eagles path, okay, buddy? I got one more question for you before I lose my mind here at these Eagles. And, we definitely do a lot of fantasy here on the show, but in general, it's a football show, and this is not necessarily a fancy question, but it seems week after week we keep seeing teams that they get a lead and then they just simply play not to lose. It's not like they're taking their lead and they're running with it and they're putting their foot on people's necks. They just get that lead, like the Browns just did it with the Cowboys. The Browns almost lost to the Cowboys. They had an opportunity. They let the Cowboys come back in the game. It's almost like these coaches get afraid with a lead and they just want to run the clock out. I mean, we saw it with the sorry Falcons, but we saw that with the Super Bowl. I mean, a few years ago, we saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC Championship game with the Patriots. Blake Bortles, of all people, is throwing the ball all over the field. They're racking up the points, and next thing you know, they just start handing Fournette every play, trying to run out the clock, and that lets the Patriots come back and win. I don't get it. Why are coaches doing this seemingly week in and week out when it obviously doesn't work?
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know what the reason behind the prevent defense, in my mind, prevents you from winning more times than not. These backdoor covers have had it happen a lot. I've had a few heartbreakers on these backdoor covers. I don't understand the philosophy change. I guess obviously you're trying to run down the clock or whatever, but I think it puts you in a bad spot. I mean, because now all of a sudden, instead of having an easy victory, you got to sweat it out. I don't know why you just don't keep the pressure up. And I guess they're afraid that people getting upset that they run the score up or whatever. But Bill Belichick never has a problem with doing that. So they need to take the playbook out like that from him, that just keep scoring, man. It's the other team's job to stop you from scoring. And once you let off the gas a little bit, these guys are talented. They could come back on you. And I just don't get why more teams don't have the philosophy of the Patriots like that.
And that was one thing that, we were talking a lot of negative about the Eagles here, but a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl run, that was one thing. The only thing I think that helped them win is they were suffering from so many injuries. They were hurt on offense and defense. But Doug Peterson put the pedal to the metal. The score was like 31-13 or something against the Vikings in a playoff game, and Nick Foles is still throwing bombs down the field. Like there was no hesitation. There's no conservative play calling there. Just pedal to the metal, and I think that's what more coaches need to do.
Yeah, I know one criticism. I mean, I'm a Ravens fan. A lot of people criticize that Lamar's in the game too long. And I'm like, if that's our biggest criticism, that they're keeping Lamar Jackson in the game too long, I'll take that because they need the reps, especially this season without the preseason. I know now we're getting into week 5. That's not an excuse anymore. But especially early in the season, I mean, these guys, between you can't hit in practice anymore and no preseason games, I'm shocked that they didn't get the reps in that they need. And these teams – laying off the gas like that, it hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely hurts when you, like you said, some of those backdoor covers, man. I hate it.
That Bengals-Browns game, that was devastating watching Cincinnati just go right down the field.
I mean, I put a little scratch on a few games, and then it's like you look at a few and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to win that one. And then like 10 minutes later, I'm trying to find the game on TV. I'm like, I got to watch the last couple minutes. You're sweating it out, and then it's just not good sometimes. Yeah,
I'll say this. When it comes to that sports betting in general, I think the player props is as close to fantasy as we can get. Like George Kittle had a 4.5 catch prop this past Sunday. I mentioned almost hurts, but I hammered the Kittle prop, and it was
good.
It was the least stressful bet I've ever had in my life because he nailed it.
That's ridiculous. Where did they come from? 4.5.
It was on DraftKings Sportsbook. It was crazy.
Good.
I guess because he was just coming. Yeah, I didn't see that one. Damn.
Dude, I saw it. I hammered it.
Yeah. He probably had that. He probably had that in like the first quarter.
Yeah. So for me personally, I do better with that. Obviously, I love the point spreads and all that. Just because my mind is fantasy. So I know, all right, especially baseball, like strikeout props and things like that. It's just it's easier to project, at least for me. And I think a lot of people that play fantasy, I mean, hey, I think this guy's going to get 80 yards. His prop is 72. And obviously you're going to hit the over on that. So I don't know. That's just advice for me because I'm not the greatest when it comes to actual point spreads because a lot of times you get these backdoors that just break your heart.
Yeah. All right, Brian, you got anything else for our man?
I don't know, man. All right, yeah, one quick one. How much longer do you think Fitzmagic has before Tua goes in there? How many weeks?
Well, it seems like every week they're trying to see if Tua's coming in.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about his health, man. Long term, I just see him break it down. That hip injury is bad. And I think you need a full year. I mean, I guess he's coming up on a year. He was about, late October-ish. He got hurt last year, if I remember right. But I think that yeah, I would not put him in, man. I mean,
what are you gaining here? I mean, get him a little bit of experience, but I mean, it's not like you're pushing for the playoffs. You don't need these wins. I mean, put him on the shelf. Let him get fully healthy, like you said. And then, maybe get him a couple games at the end of the season, see what's up. Yeah,
and he was always injured in college too. I don't know. I'm not a huge Tua guy, but like I said, I wasn't a big Herbert guy. And he's impressed me a lot. So I'm more worried about his health when it comes to Tua. I mean, I think he's going to have a hard time staying on the field.
All right, Phil. What do you got going on out there? How can our listeners find you, read your stuff, listen to you? What we got to do?
Yeah, so at Phil Backert, Backert on Twitter. I do IDP on Fantasy Guru. I don't know if you guys are in IDP leagues. It's a lot of fun, man. It's different. There's a lot of different rules and league setups. Some start one defensive player, some start one at each position. So it's a lot. So it's good, man. I do the rankings every week. That's at fantasyguru.com. Obviously producing Elite Sports. That's 4 to 6 on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Series 210, XM 87. So that's where you can find me. I really appreciate you guys having me on today.
Oh, yeah. And I got to tell you, all of our listeners, real quick, I do everything I can to listen to Elite Sports as much as I can on that Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff Mans, he's on there. And, man, I don't think any show dives deeper into the fantasy realm than that one. And like on this show, I'm talking about offensive linemen a lot. I'm talking about coaches. And, like this year I was big on Jack Doyle because I know not only does Phillip Rivers like the tight end, but Frank Reich, his whole career, he's had tight ends dating all the way back to Dallas Clark. He's had productive tight ends. Now, I was wrong on the tight end. It's basically the tight end position for the Colts, but still, they really dive deep. And that Elite Fantasy is the best show, I think, out there on the radio.
I really appreciate it, man.
Yep. Hey, thanks a lot, Phil. Again, you're the man, and we appreciate you coming on. Have a good one, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, man. Take it easy. All right. Good stuff.
Phil Backert.
Good stuff from Phil, man. That was good.
Oh, yeah. He, man, I'm telling you, that show, Elite Fantasy, Jeff Mans now, he could be a tough pill to swallow sometime. Before the show started, I was talking to Phil, and it took me a good solid year or two before I could really swallow that Jeff Mans pill. But once he goes on tangents and stuff. But I tell you, if you listen to his knowledge and all the research he does into the game, it's intense, and he's the best in the business in my book.
Yeah, I listened to it a few times. I'm gonna have to start getting back onto it because I leave work around 5. So yeah, I'll have to catch like that 20 minutes or so in my truck when I'm driving home. So yeah, I'll have to get back in the routine with that. It's just a tough time.
He gets everybody on the show. I mean, Phil's on the show all the time. He's behind the scenes, behind the glass producing the show. He's calling him in, asking for his takes and all the stuff. And he's always got an IDP segment on there as well. Like Phil mentioned, he's definitely an IDP guy. That's individual defensive players. For those of you who don't know, some leagues you are all defensive players. I mean, it's basically just like your fantasy drafts where you have your running backs, quarterbacks, but here you're drafting D linemen and linebackers and defensive backs, and you get points for tackles and all that good stuff. Sometimes I was in a league that was a mix. We had, our normal starting offensive players, and then we had, 4 or 5 IDP players to tackle on there. Definitely brings a whole different element to the fantasy game.
Yeah, that's something I haven't done that probably since college, so it's been a few years. Maybe I'll sign up for something next year. Yeah, it would be fun to get back into that.
A few years from college. I think you meant decades.
Yeah. I graduated. Let me see. I graduated in 2010, December of 2010.
Okay.
Almost.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So only 1 decade.
Almost, yeah. Coming up on 1.
I got you. All right, man. Let's what are we doing here? Doing a recap?
Yeah, I guess we'll run through some week 4 stuff. Let's see here. Thursday night, Broncos 37, Jets 28. I didn't watch a whole lot of this game. I did see Sam Darnold run a 46-yard touchdown, which was pretty wild to see. He wanted to slide, and then he wanted to get tackled.
I thought he was running. To get tackled.
And then
it almost tripped and fell. I honestly thought this game was going to be one of the worst games in the history of football, but it ended up being kind of entertaining to watch. The Broncos have no idea what they're doing with quarterback with Drew Lock out. They don't know if they're going with Mark Rippon's nephew, Brett Rippon, right? Him or Jeff Driscoll. I mean, neither one of them is very good, so good luck there. Melvin Gordon, the Jets decided that they were going to give up on tackling, and they let him bust a big run for a touchdown there at the very end. They had him for like a 2-yard loss, but they just decided to pat him on the butt on his way to the end zone. There's not much to take from this one. Neither one of those teams are very good.
I think it just came out today. I think Darnold, he's sitting out this week or something like that because he got hurt. I guess he hurt his shoulder, and then he went back in, and I guess
the Arizona Cardinals defense.
He's out this week, yeah. So, yeah, that'll be a good pickup. Let's see. Next game. We touched on this one a little bit. Browns 49, Cowboys 38. Now, I did watch some of this game because, like you said, Cowboys almost came back and won that game at the end, and I was hoping they would not. But, yeah, I mean, another big game.
Be careful with OBJ. I mean, he blew up, and, I would not be surprised to hear a lot of fantasy owners saying they had OBJ on their bench because he has not been producing. But be careful. This could be fluky. OBJ has not done hardly anything as a Brown. So if you got Beckham Jr. and you don't like the matchup, hey, I mean, this was a great matchup. I mean, he's not going to get much of a better matchup than this was. The Cowboys stink. Their secondary is not any good. So this is a perfect matchup for Beckham. Chubb owners, gosh.
Chubb, yeah, I have him on 2 of my leagues, and he's out for a little while, so that stings. Beckham.
Ernest Johnson, pick him up.
Yeah, man, Beckham, I traded him, like I said last week. I dished him last week. Luckily, I still won. But like you said, I think it's a fluke. I mean, the Cowboys' defense is terrible. I mean, so I could see him going back to doing what he was doing the first 3 weeks, which was not much. What is it? Amari Cooper had a big game too. I think both of those guys are similar, like we talked about. They have those big games, and I think both of those guys had their big game. And I don't think they're going to continue on that pace, obviously. But
Amari Cooper's got close to 50% target share on his team.
Yeah,
he's number 1 in the league. He has the highest target share for his teams on his team in the NFL.
Yeah, and it might keep. I mean, and he might keep that up too, because I mean, like I said, the Cowboys' defense is terrible. I mean, they're giving up. What is this, 3rd straight week? They've given 38 points plus.
1 million points a week. It's terrible.
So, yeah, I mean, if I was their D coordinator, I mean, I'd be I think my seat will be a little hot on there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man, next week, next game here, Bucks 38, Chargers 31. Brady.
Herbert should have won, man.
Yeah, Brady, big game. I need him to start racking up them 5 touchdown games if I'm going to hit on him leading the league in TDs. But he looks like he's getting a little more comfortable. But like I said, Herbert's a guy I'm kind of like – I might have a little bit of a crush on Herbert right now. I mean, he just looks like –
As you should.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks like he has the effect. Like, he just looks like he's going to be good in the league. I mean, I know he hasn't won a game yet, but, I mean, he almost beat the Chiefs. They should have won this game, so it's tough. I mean – But, yeah, I mean, he's getting it going. I mean, he only threw 5 incompletions, and he had 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's a guy I'm looking, fantasy-wise, a spot start maybe on like a bye week or I don't know. I mean, I
started him 2 weeks ago in the league. Worked out for me well.
Yeah, I like Herbert.
we already talked about the Chargers backfield. So if you didn't hear that, check that out earlier in the show with Phil Backert.
Yeah.
Herbert loves Keenan Allen, so if you got Keenan Allen, you better hold on to him. He's gonna get a lot of targets coming up. The Bucs play this Thursday. I'd be wary of that game. I don't really like Thursday games. Mike Evans, I think, is the really only guy you're trusting in that showdown.
Yeah, let's see. Who do they do play Thursday night, right? Who
Bears.
Yeah, that's a tough game.
I mean, if you got Mike Evans, you're starting it, but like those other guys, Scotty Miller and Ronald Jones, I would shy away if I could.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, next game, Ravens 31, Washington football team 17. Again, this is a game I just saw the highlights of this game. I saw Lamar bust like a 50-yard run. Yeah, I mean, he looked like reading into the stats, it looked like they had a pretty balanced attack.
You can't trust – look, first off, I don't know what the Ravens defense was doing. They just got smacked by the Chiefs. I thought they were going to come in here angry and rock the Redskins or the Washington football team. It didn't happen. That was disappointing for me. Yeah. You can't trust any Ravens running back. You can't trust any Washington running back, although Antonio Gibson's getting a lot of looks. But Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry's the real deal. I mean, he had 10 catches, career high, for 100 and some yards on a very tough defense. And he's the only weapon really they have in the receiving game. So teams know he's the only guy there, and he's still producing week after week. So good for you, McLaurin. You step it up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't watch a whole lot of this game, but my first initial reaction was, I mean, I didn't know how Washington scored 17 points. Like you said, I mean, I thought that was going to be like a 31-3 or 31-6 game. So
I think RG3 threw an interception and then let him score again.
I think Haskins is about a week away from getting pulled for Kyle Allen. I think that's happening.
He should have got pulled a season ago.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. And then I also read Lamar. Let's see, he became the fastest to reach 5,000 passing yards, 2,000 rushing yards in only 35 games. So I mean, he's just on another level, man. So yeah.
Newsflash: Lamar Jackson is good.
Yeah, he's still good. All right, man. Let's see. Our Eagles 25, Niners 20. I was pretty excited. We finally got a win, but
were you excited?
Yeah, I mean, a win's a win, man. 49ers are good, and I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to hear that the 49ers are banged. They're banged up, but the Eagles have by far the most injuries in the NFL. I don't want to hear it. Whole offensive line's hurt. Every receiver was hurt. They had Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, still couldn't beat the Eagles. Whatever, we win. Wentz still didn't play that good, but he played hard enough to win. So it is what it is. So I'll take it.
Dude, you better be careful, man. Your green is showing over there.
No, it always is, dude.
Yeah. No, Kittle's great. I think Ayuk is showing promise. That hurdle he had for that touchdown was incredible. Deebo Samuel, they eased him back in, no setbacks, so he should step up pretty big coming in soon. So all those guys who drafted and held on to Deebo, I think I did in 2 of my leagues, get excited. So he should make this week. I'm not sure, but definitely sooner rather than later, Deebo should step up for you.
Yeah, Nick Mullins probably shouldn't have started that game, so he stinks. So should have held him out. All right. Colts 19, Bears 11. I watched a little bit of this game because I got Jonathan Taylor, and it was kind of ticking me off because I probably watched it for a half hour and didn't see him even on the field in like the third quarter into the fourth quarter. So,
was anyone good in this game?
Not really.
Allen Robinson.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Our man Foles didn't look too hot.
That's it.
There's
one good player on the field the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, the Colts defense is pretty good. I mean, I'll give them that.
They're great.
They look pretty good with Buckner, Justin Houston. I mean, those guys are good. Phillip Rivers looks like garbage. Foles didn't play good. But, again, Foles is going in there. It's his first game of the year. We'll see if I don't know how much longer he'll get because, I mean, Trubisky was 3-0. Wasn't doing a whole lot.
But crazy?
Still, they were 3-0, and then they put Foles in and they lose. So it's like Foles better step it up in a week or two or he'll probably be back on the bench. I don't know. I mean,
that's insane to me that a quarterback was 2-0. Yeah. Got benched. An undefeated quarterback gets benched.
That's true, yeah.
The backup ends up coming back and winning the game, and now they're, 3-1? That's a weird situation.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to put him back in, to bench him and then put him back in. I mean, I don't know how he'll take that, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's see, next game, Bills 30, Raiders 23. Like Phil said, I mean, I'm pretty high on Josh Allen. He had another good game. And Diggs, I mean, through 4 games, 26 catches, 403 yards. I mean, that's pretty
balling out.
Pretty wild, and it wasn't something that I really expected
I don't
this year.
think.
No.
Yep, I don't think any besides Sirius, Diggs, Truthers. I don't think anyone saw that coming from him. So good for him.
Yeah.
John Brown almost got in the end zone. So if you got John Brown, I think he was in. It should have been a touchdown, but they called him down like the half-inch line, and I think Allen punched it in after that. Beasley keeps doing Beasley things, and if this Bills offense can keep, crushing and putting up all these points, Beasley could be a flex or a wide receiver 3 in a PPR league.
Yeah, he just keeps putting up those stats, man. I don't know. He's just a guy that he gets absolutely no love, but I mean, at the end of the day, he puts up some numbers when you take a look at the box score. Yeah,
I gave him love.
Yeah,
2-3 months ago in our show, most underrated players in the NFL. Beasley was one of my guys.
Yeah, man, he's
got a good floor.
He did it for the Cowboys, and he's doing it now, man. But I'm pretty big on Josh Allen and the Raiders. Last couple of weeks, they kind of just look like they've come back down to reality a little bit. They started off a little hot, and then some last 2 weeks pretty ugly. So I think
they got to keep Josh Jacobs on the field. He's coming off on third down sometimes, and when they're playing catch up, that's another thing. It's another thing I don't understand about NFL coaches. You have a stud running back, but you get 2 scores behind. You're trailing by 10, 14 points. You put the stud running back on the bench and bring in your third down back.
Yeah.
Who specializes in catching passes. Well, Josh Jacobs catches passes too. He's the most talented guy. He should be on the field. I don't understand it. Never have. I doubt I ever will.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know.
Come on, coaches, do better.
That's old Gruden, the money man, too, man. He better get it together. Let's see. Saints 35, Lions 29. Drew Brees didn't start off too hot here. I mean, they were losing 14-0 in the blink of an eye, and then they kind of just came back and dominated from that point.
Yeah, I thought it was over. I was like, man, these Lions look good. Like, this is wow, this is surprising, but didn't happen.
They scored 35. I mean, without Jared Cook, without Michael Thomas, Kamara, another touchdown, Latavius Murray, 2 touchdowns. So Saints are still good.
Latavius Murray, if you're in a deeper league, you could do worse than starting Latavius Murray as your flex, even though he's a backup running back. He gets carries every game.
He does. And I guess if you need a guy, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he does get carries, but he had 14 carries, 54 yards, 2 TDs. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Even just 1 TD, you'll take that as your flex.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, even with Thomas out, I mean, I think when Thomas and Cook come back, they might not run the ball as much, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, I take Murray for now. I mean, for the next couple of weeks until one of those guys come back. But, yeah, Saints are still pretty good. Lions, I mean, are the Lions. They don't do anything for anybody. Let's see. Seahawks 31, Dolphins 23.
This game made no sense.
Yeah, it made no sense. I mean, other than the fact DK Metcalf, I mean, he's one of the top receivers in the NFL. I mean, you can't deny it.
Tyler Lockett didn't do much.
No.
I mean, this Devontae Parker was the only receiver who really did too much, I think, for the Dolphins. Ryan Fitzpatrick was a letdown. I expected a lot more fireworks from this game with the shoddy defenses and the air and out passing attacks that both these teams employ. I expected a lot more fireworks from this one, but
yeah, I did too. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, Metcalf. I mean, I looked into it. Metcalf, he's averaging over 100 yards through the first 4 games. So I mean, that kid's a stud. Big gigantic stud, man. I don't know.
Dude, calm down over there. Fan yourself. Jeez.
I hate to another guy the Eagles could have got, and they pass him up.
Dude, Fitzmagic is looking more and more like Fitztragic out there. I'm worried about him.
He's coming out, dude. In the next 2 weeks, Tua's going in there.
You're probably right.
Let's see. Bengals 33, Jags 25. We talked about Burrow a little bit, but, I mean, again, he's a guy that looks pretty solid. They just let him everything out. Mixon, thank God, had a good game for my fantasy sake. I mean, finally.
Great game.
Yeah, finally made up for the first couple of weeks, I think. So, hopefully.
Tyler Boyd is – yep.
Yeah, hopefully Mixon continues. And Boyd is the guy that I got in the Odell Beckham trade. And, I mean, he had
he's good.
7 catches and 90 yards, but he's getting a lot of targets. And I know Odell had the huge game last week, but he's not going to play against Dallas every week. So I'll take
Right.
Boyd. You know,
Tyler Boyd's your go-to guy for Burrow, and he's the number one receiver now. T. Higgins is really playing well and getting targeted a lot in the red zone. And look, A.J. Green has done nothing, and you want to bench him. Some people probably want to drop him. But, he's one of the few receivers in the league that have gotten at least 5 targets every single week. And if you're getting targets, the production has to come at some point in time. It's numbers. It's math. I'm not a big math guy, but I'm telling you, if you have a lot of opportunities, eventually it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I got A.J. Green on a team or two, I think, and I'm holding on to him for now. You know, if I can get a trade somewhere for him, I'll take it. But his time is coming. It has to.
Yeah, you would think he'll have a couple of big games here with that kind of targets, but I don't know. I mean, when I watch the game, he just looks like he's lost his. I don't know. He just doesn't look. I mean, he is a little.
He definitely doesn't look himself.
No, I don't know, but yeah, like you said, I mean, if you keep throwing the ball, eventually he's going to score a touchdown or two here and there. So,
Jaguars,
for your
my
sake.
man DJ Chark is back. He played. He sat out last week. He played this past Sunday. Scored 2 touchdowns. Looking good out there. It's amazing what one guy can do for an entire offense. And James Robinson, he is the steal of the year for fantasy owners and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like.
Yeah, he is. He's a stud too.
And pick up Laviska Shenault if you can. He's getting more involved in the game, and he's hitting his stride with Gardner Minshew. So Laviska Chenault's a good pickup this week.
Yeah, man. This year was all these guys are pretty good. I mean, all these rookie receivers. I mean, Jefferson, Higgins, Shenault. I mean, all these rookie receivers and running backs this year look. I mean,
Ayuk.
Kids look solid. Yeah, Ayuk. Guys look solid. So yeah, it's fun to watch all these young guys. Let's see. Next game, Panthers. 31, Cardinals 21. I don't know.
I don't know what's going on in Arizona.
Yeah, I think they're just struggling a little bit. I mean, Kyler Henley had 133 passing yards. I think he's just
didn't he have like 3 touchdowns though?
I think he did. Yeah. Let me see. I think he did have 3 touchdowns, but he had like
odd stat line.
He had like 78 yards rushing or something like that. So I mean, that saves you a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I think he'll come around. That team. I mean, Hopkins. I don't know. He looked like he was playing with like half a leg, so he was kind of like not at full speed from what I watched. So,
he had like 7 catches, 41 yards, and he's getting targeted near the line of scrimmage. Something was up. They were babying him through it, which is smart for them. But if you're gonna do that, just sit him.
Yeah, I mean, just hold him out if you're gonna do that, because it was like he was playing at half speed, and then just whatever. Maybe that's just a bad game. I don't know. We'll see. But Cardinals, I know, are a team that a lot of people were high on, and they looked pretty good in the first couple of weeks and looked pretty disappointing these last couple of weeks, but we'll see. Their defense isn't that great. I mean, if you're giving up 31 points to the Panthers, you're going to have some problems the rest of the year. So, especially playing in that division too.
Teddy Bridgewater looking like Christian McCaffrey out there on a touchdown run, juking people out.
Yeah, he did. And I guess when McCaffrey comes back, maybe, I don't know, some point in this year, I mean, Panthers will win a few more games than I thought they were this year. So I don't know. They're not looking too terrible. But let's see. Next game, Vikings 31, Texans 23.
Hey, it's October. It's Kirk Cousins month. Joe Pisapia told us last week, October and November are Kirk Cousins months. And look, Adam Thielen was eaten. Justin Jefferson was eaten. Dalvin Cook was eaten. So, hey, start your Justin Jefferson. Start your Vikings, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins looked pretty solid from what he's been playing the last couple of weeks. I think, what was he, 16 to 22, 260, and 1 touchdown. So,
I mean, I'm really going to have to be hurting at QB to start Kirk Cousins. But I'll start the guys he's throwing the ball to.
Yeah, I mean, Jefferson, he's another rookie. I mean, that kid's a complete stud too. I mean, he looks like the last, 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, he looks like he's the best player on the field. So, I mean, I would love.
He's running a lot of routes too. Like I was kind of worried there for a while with BC Johnson and how much work and routes run that Justin Jefferson was going to get, but those numbers are going up.
Yeah, he is, man, and I guess this is the final straw for Bill O'Brien. Like you said, their offense. I mean, I just feel bad for Deshaun Watson, and the David Johnson experiment isn't working out. So I think that was the final straw, man. Trading Hopkins for him,
and it's not looking better with Cornell.
Nah, it's not going to get any better. So I don't know. They'll be eyeing up somebody's offensive coordinator, I'm sure, by the end of the year. So we'll see. All right, man. Let's see.
Bring Riley down from Oklahoma.
Yeah, that could work. Damn, that could work.
And these NFL teams, look, the Pac-12 hasn't started football yet. The Big Ten, they could scoop up one of these college coaches if they wanted to.
That's true. Yeah, they could.
Get old Franklin down here from Penn State. Just follow his boy Bill O'Brien.
Penn State from Penn State, yeah. I don't know. They might have to go a different route. I don't know, man. Let's see. Rams 17, Giants 9. Didn't watch a whole lot of this game. Game was pretty
good for you.
Game was pretty terrible. I mean, I saw Cooper Kupp have the 55-yard touchdown and like halfway through the fourth quarter that it was like 10-9 or something like that. And that put them up 17-9. They win the game.
The most frustrating thing about this game is how – so I talked, again, last week with Joe PSP about Darrell Henderson was PFF's number one rated running back in all of the NFL. 2 games played, this and that. He got, I think, 6 carries. Malcolm Brown took the lead role. Why? Why is Malcolm Brown the lead running back for this game randomly out of nowhere when Henderson's been toting a rock for you? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's because McVay's overrated probably. That's probably why.
And the Giants stink. They are not good at anything. This week coming up is the Cowboys. If you're going to ever start Giants, start them this coming week against the Cowboys. And if it doesn't work out, they're gone.
Oh, well,
all
yeah.
of them.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Freeman, he looked okay. I guess I'll throw that out there. Yeah, I mean,
he's easily the best running back that they have.
Yeah, that they have, yeah. I mean, what is it? The Rams, I mean, Goff didn't look that great against the Giants defense. I mean, it was just a pretty bad game, I don't know, all around. And I guess the Rams –
We're talking about it. What's the next one?
Rams are 3-1, but they're beating up on the NFC East. So, I mean, that's not saying much.
Good for them.
We got last night, we have Chiefs 26, Patriots 10. Again, I watched this one pretty close. I mean, I had a few of these guys on here. I mean, CEH, 64 yards on 16 carries. He's not looking so hot these last couple of weeks.
Nope.
I mean, he had that big game in the season opener, and you thought he was just gonna kind of do that every week, and he hasn't really done it since that first week. So
he's getting decent looks in the passing game, so that's something to hold on to.
Yeah, this is a game that was weird to me too. I mean, the Patriots hung around in there until the second half. Obviously, I mean,
Bill Belichick's the greatest coach in the history of sports. I mean, he had like 9 guys on his team quit or sit out because of COVID, and he's still stifling. Besides one 50-yard catch and run by Kelsey and one touchdown catch by Tyreek Hill, they're 2 of the best players in the NFL and 2 of the best at their positions. And Bill Belichick finds a way to make it happen and shut those guys down. It's so impressive week after week.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, if you look at it, I mean, if you're watching this game, they were down 3 points in the fourth quarter, and you're like, I don't know. I'm thinking in my head, like, first, how, and second of all, don't tell me they're going to win with a backup quarterback against the Chiefs,
and a backup quarterback.
Yeah, because Hoyer, he looked like
he was terrible, and then bring in Stidham. Think about that. Gosh, Bill Belichick, man, a lot of respect for you, buddy.
You got that one wrong.
What?
I said he got that one wrong, man. He should have started Stidham, I think, over Hoyer. I don't know.
I mean, I think Stidham still threw a pick 6 at Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, but Edelman handed it to him though. So
okay.
He caught it and then he just handed it off to and told Tyrann Mathieu to run for a touchdown. So
fair enough.
Last game of the week, it was Packers 30, Falcons 16. Falcons are garbage.
They're bad. Matt Ryan, he looked so much worse than he has the previous weeks. I mean, he didn't look good this game. No, Julio Jones is hurt. Calvin Ridley. How does Calvin Ridley not have a catch?
Yeah, he didn't do squat. He had 0. Didn't even get any fantasy points. Rodgers, I mean, this guy's just – I don't know. I guess he's proven everybody wrong, but he's been a stud for 12 years, 13 years. But
dude, I think he's been faking. I think for 2 years he's just been mad that he hasn't gotten receivers. So he's been faking like he's bad. And then when they bring in another quarterback, he's like, "Nah, just kidding. I'm still Aaron Rodgers.
I'm still good."
If it wasn't for Russell Wilson and Josh Allen, we'd be talking about Aaron Rodgers as MVP.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I mean, he could end up. I mean, he's in the mix. I mean, it's not like he can't win MVP. I mean, what's he have? 13 touchdowns, no picks. I mean,
he's looking good, man. He is, and that's with no one. No Devontae Adams. I mean, Allen Lazard. Who's he throwing to? Robert Tonyan.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns.
Nobody even knew who that guy was outside of his family before 2 weeks ago.
Guy scores 3 touchdowns.
It's crazy.
I don't know. That's crazy. He's a guy. Look, I had him in in DraftKings, I had a lineup, and he was like so cheap. I just started him at tight end, and I was down. I think if he would have had one more catch, because he had 98 yards, if he would have broke the 100-yard mark, I would have got first place. But he ended up with 98 yards, and then that was pure luck. I mean,
you still should have got paid out.
Yeah, I didn't. It was a first place takes all, and I ended up getting second. But I mean, I wasn't even like looking at it. I was down by so many in the beginning of the game. Right. I was like, I'm never going to even be close. And then at the end of the night, I'm like praying to the TV for a one catch for 2 yards
from a guy you've never heard of.
I've never heard of, because in DraftKings, if you go over 100 yards, you get like a 3-point bonus, and that would have put me over the. I don't know. I lost by like.
Fantasy's so weird.
Yeah, I hate fantasy sometimes, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's the wrap up week 4. Week 5, I don't know, man. Looking at some of these games, not too hot either. Like you said, I mean, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Thursday night.
Don't mess with that one.
I know. I'm kind of I want to see. I do want to see Burrow against Baltimore. I'd like to see that. I might watch a little bit of that game.
I don't like watching train wrecks, man. And Burrow could be walking right into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, that'll be tough. I'm gonna watch Monday night. I kind of like Chargers Saints. Like I said, I mean, I'm pretty big on Herbert right now, so we'll see how he does. And then I think the only other game that's even worth any kind of time discussing, maybe, I don't know, man, Vikings and Seattle. I don't know, Sunday night. I mean, that might be an okay game. I don't know.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fantasy points there. Nobody's playing defense. Everyone's throwing the ball. I like that one. That's a game you want to stack in fantasy for DFS.
Yeah. Besides that, I mean, all these other games are kind of one-sided.
The matchups have not been great.
Last couple of weeks are terrible. Yeah. I mean, looking at it, I mean, it's like Carolina, Atlanta, Vegas, Kansas City, Arizona, Jets.
That Carolina-Atlanta game could have a lot of points.
Yeah. I mean, Jags, Houston, Miami, San Fran, Indy, Cleveland. I mean, Giants, Dallas. Yeah. I don't know. None of these games excite me. Eagles, Steelers.
Start Darius Slay. Yeah. and if Darius Slay doesn't do it this week, cut him.
Yeah. And I guess we have our first true bye week starting this week. You got the Lions and the Packers, but I know due to COVID, these teams are taking byes and whatever that mess is. But yeah, so nobody's starting Aaron Rodgers or anybody on Detroit, I guess, if you have anybody. But yeah, that's it, man. So another good week.
Episode 25, right? Quarter century,
man. Episode 25. So we've been going at it for quite some time now. I don't know, 6 months, I guess. So
that's a lot. It's a lot of time to be hanging out with you every Tuesday,
building some content here. So
that's right.
We're pushing ever so closer to that 1,000 person mark on Facebook. I think we're at like 944 or something like that last time I checked. I know a couple of people added 5 to 10 people a couple of days ago. So yeah, we need to keep that up and
let's keep rolling with that.
Yeah. Other than that,
great show. B&B's Football Happy Hour. Find us everywhere. YouTube, like and subscribe. Help us out over there. And then obviously Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and we're on Pandora now.
Yeah, that took about 6 to 8 weeks, I think. I don't know, to get approved. We're on it now. You can look it up. Just search B&B's Football Happy Hour. All you Pandora listeners out there, I know that's a pretty huge platform.
Spotify's all that's left. Spotify's the last mountain to climb.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I might still be waiting. I don't know. I'll have to check on them. But, yeah, I don't know. Those things take forever to get approved. So,
thanks for checking us out. Another great guest in Phil Backert. As always, our beats are by Dunson. And, Brian, I'll see you in a week, my friend.
All right, man. Take it easy.
See ya.